everyone, welcome in, echohack here. We just discovered that Necromancer's new unique item for Season 1 is the Lidless Wall, a shield that is incredibly powerful. Now, Necromancer so far has had some pretty poor performing uniques, nothing like Tempest Roar on Druid, but this one is sure to be in every single major build. This is a major meta shakeup, as every softcore build until now has included a two-handed sword for the extra critical strike damage. But with the relative nerfs to crit and vuln, a shield that spawns bone storms and also benefits from sacrifice is primed to augment some of Necromancer's best builds. There's one major build, however, that is set to benefit more than others from Lidless Wall, Infinimist. I've spent nearly half of my playtime on Necromancer so far playing Infinimist with a shield in hardcore. Now, to understand why this is so significant, let's talk about Infinimist's strange damage source. Now, unlike most builds that get damage by right-clicking on their damage skill, Infinimist instead tries to stack as many sources of shadow damage in order to proc Shadowblight. In that way, you need to sort of precipitate and make it rain shadow damage all over the screen. You need 10 stacks of shadow damage in order to proc Shadowblight, so the faster that you can proc this, the better. Now, it turns out that using Ultimate Shadow Aspect plus Bone Storm is one of the best ways to proc Shadowblight. Enemies absolutely melt inside of Shadow Bone Storm. Before equipping Lidless Wall, you will not always melt enemies in this way because the long cooldown on Bone Storm. But now that we have Lidless Wall, we can not just surround our character with Bone Storm, but we can cover the entire screen with this insane meltiness. And don't let the damage numbers here fool you. Shadowblight here is proccing repeatedly for 100k to 400k damage, and there's no internal cooldown or resource requirement. I expect these numbers to actually get much higher and more consistent post-patch. And even better, Infinimist performs differently compared to other builds when considering Nightmare Dungeons. It simply ignores affixes like Suppressor or Resource Burn that other builds really stumble on. It also thrives in events due to being able to spread damage over the entire screen, allowing you to clear more waves on Cursed Chests, Cursed Wells, Waves of Darkness, and so on. Lidless Wall will spawn multiple Bone Storms all over the screen while your Corpse Explosions seek out enemies, or even while you speed farm and move through a dungeon non-stop. This gives you both incredible damage and also procs your shielding storm aspect all of the time, giving you a smooth survivability mechanic. Even better, because the Bone Storms spawn after your initial Bone Storm starts, it allows you to chain them together and hold you over until your cooldown on Bone Storm is up again. And it gets even better. Infinimist already benefits tremendously from lucky hit chance, so the build already stacks it on both rings, gloves, and uses a one-handed wand, giving you 50 or more bonus lucky hit chance out of the gate. And since Lidless Wall is a lucky hit effect, meaning that the Blighted Corpse Explosion stacking and shadow damage that we stack from Bone Storm benefits our lucky hit procs that we've already invested into heavily. Finally, the patch notes give us even better news for Infinimist. The aspect of Ultimate Shadow is getting a double damage buff. That will make the damage coming from your Bone Storms even more potent and bring this build to new heights. Now, I need to put a giant asterisk here because all of this information is theory crafted based on the patch notes and my 400 hours of game time post-launch with the Necromancer. That said, I'll be looking for Lidless Wall on my hardcore SSF character when the patch goes live. Drop by my Twitch channel to check out some live testing of the new Lidless Wall with Infinimist. I think there's a real chance here for Infinimist taking the crown as Necromancer's new best build, and what's even more incredible about that is the build is super flexible. You can build Infinimist with a Blood Golem to mirror your Bone Storm. You can build it with Sever to do vulnerable or more shadow damage procs. You can even use it with Bone Prison for the vulnerable, blocking enemy movement and taking advantage of some of Bone Prison's strange mechanics, allowing you to trigger Lucky Hit with the way that it applies vulnerable. Even wilder, you can abandon shadow damage and swap into a super endgame setup with Bone Spirit as well, but play the same style of build and have the same game feel as Infinimist, and still benefit from all of the same lucky hit mechanics and playstyle. I've already got videos of earlier versions of Bone Spirit and Shadowblight Infinimist builds on the channel that you can go check out to learn more about those builds. And I'll get updated ones for Season 1 once we know a bit more about the mechanics of the new season a bit better. Now let's look at my version of Infinimist with Lidless Wall. Keep in mind, there's a lot we still don't know about Season 1 Malignants yet, so this build could change post-season launch. And if you want to follow along, you can find my planner right below the like button. All right, so first, the skills that we have on our skill bar. Corpse Tendrils, Corpse Explosion, Bone Storm, Blood Mist, Bone Prison, and Decrepify. Now let's go over to our skill tree and I'll break that down for you. First, you put 2 points into any basic skill. It doesn't really matter where we put this because we don't use the basic skill. We throw 1 point into Unliving Energy because we have to, and then 3 out of 3 of Hewed Flesh. Then we go 5 out of 5 Blood Mist, and we take all the way to the Ghastly Blood Mist upgrade. We go 4 out of 5 Corpse Explosion, and we go to the Blighted Corpse Explosion upgrade. Then we take Bone Prison, and we go down to Ghastly Bone Prison, which is the Vulnerable upgrade. We take 1 point in Grim Harvest and 3 into Fueled by Death. Then we go down here and we take 3 in Death's Embrace, 3 in Amplified Damage, 1 in Decrepify down to Aberrant Decrepify. We take 1 in Corpse Tendrils, and we go over here to the Blighted Corpse Tendrils upgrade. Then we take 3 into Reaper's Pursuit. That movement speed is actually really good. We take 3 into Gloom, 3 into Terror, and 1 here into Crippling Darkness. This one is only here just so we can get those stuns on bosses for that boss stagger. Now we go down here to the Ultimate node, we get Bone Storm and all of its upgrades, and then we get 3 out of 3 Standalone, 3 out of 3 Memento Mori, and as for our Capstone passive, or key passive, we get Shadowblight. Now let's head over to the Book of the Dead. Of course, we're going to sacrifice everything so that we can benefit from Lidless Wall. We sacrifice our Reapers for 15% multiplicative shadow damage. We sacrifice Cold Mages for that vulnerable damage. And then finally, the Iron Golem. This one's especially important. Critical strike damage, and believe it or not, Shadowblight can critical strike, and it can crit for quite a lot. All right, now we're gonna head over to the planner so I can show you the Paragon boards a little bit. Now, I'm not gonna go into super detail on all the routing, and I'm sure that it's not exactly perfect, and someone's gonna grill me in the comments for missing a slightly more efficient route. But more or less, this is sort of the important bits. And of course, you can swap different glyphs around and that sort of thing, but this is the way I really like to build it. First of all, I like to take Blood Drinker as our first socket here. Blood Drinker, and I'm actually missing 2 points here that I've got to go reroute from somewhere else. Blood Drinker is really important because it gives us all of the Fortify here on the build with Blood Orbs, which we also benefit from Fast Blood. Now, in the second board, we take the Wither board, this is like the main darkness board. We're gonna go grab the Wither node, and then this routing is really interesting. We kind of go over here, and we go over here, and we go up here, and then we grab the glyph socket, and we're gonna throw Scourge in this glyph socket. Now you'll notice there's 49 willpower available here, so we pick up all the willpower that we can from Scourge, and then we head over here, and we exit the board in 2 different spots. Now, as you're leveling, you'll actually want to exit this board first. As you're leveling, Flesh Eater is really important to pick up early on because this legendary node is a 40x multiplier. I can't stress this enough. If you do not get this early, your damage is going to be lacking quite a bit. So make sure you get this early. Don't wait to get this one. And then you can then come over here to exit this board and start picking up your way towards darkness. This control node is also really important. So you can either come to the control node or you can come towards this darkness node. Both of them are actually really important. The choice is yours. This control node is super, super important because you can get a 20x multiplier off of it and its intelligence, which Flesh Eater here is actually a really excellent intelligence board. It has 75 intelligence available that you can pick up. Now up here, we pick up the Blood board, the Blood Begets Blood board. Now this board on Necromancer is actually very underused. So that's very, very interesting that we actually pop blood orbs from our Corpse Tendrils and we proc all the stuff on this board, which is really, really cool because we get to do blood orb mechanics. So We go for the glyph socket. We pick up darkness. There's 54 willpower available here, so slightly more willpower than down here for Scourge. Darkness, of course, is more important than Scourge as a glyph. We come up here around the side and we pick up the Blood Begets Blood legendary node, which is really, really nice. That's 15x that we can pick up right there. And we also pick up this little stack here. Now this little stack doesn't look like much, but look, this is 5x, this is 10x, and this is another 5x that we can pick up. All right, now we exit this board and we're gonna go over here to Scent of Death. Scent of Death is also super, super, super important. It has 15% damage reduction. It's got a whole healthy damage node and crit damage node here that's really good. And we can even squeeze out Sacrificial if you're really clever. You can get that extra 10x multiplier here. Of course, if you want to check the particulars out of the Paragon board, make sure that you hit the description below and hit my D4 planner for this build. Of course, I'll be updating this, kind of as I go through the season, so the routing might change a little bit. I might find some optimization opportunities based on just really just staring at the board for way, way too long. Anyway, that's the build with the new Lidless Wall, unique for the Necromancer with Infinimist. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.